welcome to New Game Plus TV live on Twitch. You might be joining us on C31, C44, or listening as a podcast. I'm Cringe, and this week I'm joined by Don, Kart, and Meg, and we're going to be getting into a lot of... It's going to be a very meaty show. I think it's one of the thickest shows we've had in quite a while. Part of it is because we've been playing a bunch of games that have come out over the last month or so. Also, this little thing happened, like new consoles came out, so I guess we're going to maybe address that.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have any consoles here.
Yeah, so Don, you have been playing Dirt 5, and did you do our grid review as well?
Yes, not the grid review, but I have done the F1 2020 review. I have done the Project Cars 3 review. So this is at least the third Codemasters racing game to come out this year. Turns out I play a lot of them, so I'll have my thoughts on Dirt 5 later.
Very excited to hear about it. Kart, you've been playing Pikmin 3, one of only 3,200,000 and 65 million, that's how numbers work, Wii U remasters to Switch, and you have some thoughts about that.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to correct you on that number. It is 3,572.
Thank you.
Get it right next time. Okay. And yes, so I would say it's probably one of the last big heavy hitters in terms of the Wii U. It's probably going to also segue into a conversation that we've probably been needing to have for quite some time. It is in fact the Nintendo Switch intervention known as "Why Were You Doing This to Me?"
Were you doing this to me?
Yes, but Pikmin 3 is interesting. I'm really keen to get stuck into that and tell you why I like it and parts of why I loathe it. But yeah.
And Meg, you have been playing Dark Pictures Anthology. Last Hope, I think it's called?
Little Hope, actually. I am a huge aficionado of the narrative, story-driven survival horror games. I think every single one that's ever existed in the last, how many years I've been on the show, I've snapped up every one. And this one is, I can't wait to deep dive on this one too. Lots of gore and horror, jump scares. I'm here for it.
Good stuff. Before we get into any of those reviews or indeed our first impressions of the consoles, let's jump into the gaming news headlines of this week. Xbox has announced that Project xCloud is coming to Australia in a preview phase starting from November 18th. The service will be free while it's in preview and can be signed up for now through the Xbox website, including only 25 games like Ark Survival Evolved, Devil May Cry 5, Forza Horizon 4 and Halo the Master Chief Collection. It will only be available for Android devices through the Xbox game streaming app. A Sony executive has said that the transition from PS4 to PS5 will take about 3 years. Speaking with Japanese site AV Watch, Sony's SVP of Global Product Strategy and Management, Hideaki Nishino, insisted that forward compatibility is important and that consumers will see cross-generational content that supports both PS4 and PS5 for a few years yet. The current assumption is that the transition from PS4 to PS5 will take about 3 years, Nishino said. We have more than 100 million PS4 customers, but we will do our best to move to PS5 as soon as possible. CD Projekt Red has reaffirmed its commitment to launching Cyberpunk 2077 in December following its most recent delay. This delay was made to bring parity to Cyberpunk 2077 across 9 versions of the game that span across current gen, next gen, and PC. When a user voiced concern about a further delay on Twitter, CD Projekt Red's global community lead Marcin Momot posted a photo of the Cyberpunk 2077's header image on Twitter, which shows the current December 10th release date. And those are the big gaming news headlines of this week. One that I missed that I think Don pulled me up on also, is the Mass Effect trilogy. The Mass Effect trilogy is getting a remake that's coming to, I believe it is PS4 and Xbox One and PC. It does not have multiplayer, which, press F for that one. I don't think anyone cares about that.
I've seen a lot of people talking about Mass Effect 3's multiplayer mode almost in a positive light. I remember having a good time with it as well. But and it was also there was an EA when they had loot boxes, but they didn't feel as predatory as something like, say, Battlefront, Star Wars Battlefront 2 or FIFA Ultimate Team does.
I mean, people were just excited about it. As much as some people might be a little bit bitter about the multiplayer, sure, let's just indulge in that fantasy for a little bit. I'm just kind of at a bit of a loss as to why it's difficult to go back and play it. If you had it on PS3 and you've got a PS4, sure, it's a bit of a pain to get that up and running. But if you've got Game Pass, EA Access is part of that now. So you get Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. If you're on PC, they're all there as well. sure, it might not look great on a 4K TV, but
it is.
I can't imagine. But I can't imagine that like the upgrade is going to be that noticeable. Like, what are they going to do that makes Unreal Engine 3 scale? I mean, it never really scaled that well in 1080p in a lot of cases. How's it going to go well in 4K?
You'll have much fewer. The loading elevators will be a lot quicker for one.
Oh yeah,
and that famous Unreal Engine pop-in will also be gone.
The 2-second elevators. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm like, yeah, seeing glorious texture pop-in at 4K would be great.
If they really want it on a Mass Effect, they need to at least have that as an option, just to have to add an option to delay texture pop-in by a second.
I know. Like, I remember how bad it was on The Last Remnant. That was a horrendous game for that stuff. Unreal Engine 3, we'll just leave it in the past. Getting into the news headlines we went through, though, xCloud coming to Australia sooner than we thought. We were told that it was coming in 2021. It is coming as a preview, so you can go to the Xbox website now and sign up if you have an Android
not
phone.
Right now. You're watching New Game Plus.
Well,
after that.
Right now, don't change. Like, I mean, I guess if you want to get your second screen out, or you can Xbox Snap Edge. I don't know if anyone does that anymore. You can go and sign up to get xCloud up and running. I'm actually kind of excited about it because right now you can kind of make it with an Xbox One or Series, I guess, at home. You can stream it from your home network over like 4G to your phone. It's not a perfect experience, but it is also like the first release that we've seen for like as far as home streaming is concerned. It was good enough for me to play Forza Horizon 4 over 4G. So that kind of baseline is pretty good. The games that they've included, though, I'm like, yeah, Game Pass. You get all of the games on Game Pass to be able to stream. 25, like really? That I guess it's a preview. So
it's a baseline. It's a baseline. But for what is there, it's pretty impressive. I always mentioned that. I always was going to call it that. As soon as Microsoft enters the cloud gaming scene, it's going to be all over because they all have the infrastructure right there, all the Azure servers, all the know-how, the support as well, and how hard they're pushing this compared to remember that Stadia thing that happened a couple of months ago? Microsoft's on the scene, so good luck with that, Google.
Fun aside, they are giving out Stadia now to YouTube premium subscribers.
Yeah,
of course, we as Australians aren't eligible for this, but yeah.
I love the Stadia. On live. Stadia.
God, remember the Ouya? What a concept.
What a concept.
PS4 to PS5 taking about three. Actually, you know what? Let's shelve the PS4 to PS5 discussion because we'll get to that in a sec.
Yes.
CD Projekt Red confirming that Cyberpunk 2077 is definitely releasing because I think just before the last delay, further, the day before, someone was like, I've booked my time off work. Can you absolutely confirm that I'm going to be good to play it on my week off? They're like, yep, all good. The next day, they were like, we're knocking it back to December.
It was like, no more delays. But it was like, more like, no, more delays.
I think they've leveled the amount of times that John Farnham has said that he's retiring from being an artist.
When is Rods a Million going to shut down? That's all I want to know. Like, when can you wrap it up, honey?
I actually want to say this happened with World of Warcraft as well, just recently. Like, they'd said that it was locked in and everything like that. Everyone was taking time off work. You know what WoW players do? They play for like 7 days straight. They don't sleep. They don't eat. Whatever. They don't shower. Whatever.
They take the day off for their second job, which is World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then they pushed it out. So I think it's a really common thing that's happening this year.
There were a lot of people getting their limited editions.
Yes, that's correct. And they could look at the box, open it up, activate the code probably on their account.
At least Destiny 2 had the audacity, at least had the common sense to not release the physical collector's edition, when it was supposed to come out in September, as opposed to when it actually came out, which was yesterday when we're recording.
I'm going to leave the Destiny talk to the Destiny 2 expansion review, which is, I think, coming in the next few weeks, isn't it, Don? There's another expansion, so...
New expansion came out yesterday, so I will have thoughts on that in a future episode of New Game Plus.
In the meantime, though, we have had new consoles come out. The Xbox Series S and Series X and the PS5 and PS5 Digital Edition. I don't really know who's buying this thing, but all of those consoles exist. They're out in the wild. I have been able to see a single one of those, the Xbox Series X, and it is basically just a thick Xbox One S.
Double C, thick.
Absolutely. Maybe 3. Ooh. Is it going to power your dreams? No, but Tell Me Why looked pretty good on it from what we played.
And
was also like,
such a beautiful game.
It is, and was also like, I've gotten my brand new Xbox. What am I going to download first on it? I think we downloaded Fallout New Vegas and then Peggle 2.
So that's different.
You've got the spectrum all there. You got your Peggles, you got your Fallouts.
Well, yeah, I mean, like Jamie got his got his Xbox Series X today, and the very first game he loaded up was Full Throttle. 1995's Tim Paper's
glorious pixels and
pixels you can squeeze your fist through.
Imagine if Halo had come out on Tuesday. Like, what if they actually had a first party release for a next gen console? Like,
we do. Here's Tactics.
Oh, the Forza Horizon 4 optimized.
If I don't laugh, I cry. It's so underwhelming. I'm an Xbox fangirl through and through. I am happy to have that debate forever, but I had nothing to stand on this time, and also missing out for the first batch of the Xbox Series X. So I was like, you know what? I'm going PlayStation.
Even with the PlayStation as well, if you're not a fan of Demon's Souls or you didn't play through Spider-Man, there's not really much to look forward to either.
However, you're so ready.
You got sacked by. Okay, yeah. Sorry. I'll retract that. But also on top of that, the best part about the PlayStation 5 is that it lets you play your back catalog of PS4. So I've basically just gone and grabbed, like, I'm doing trophy hunting in Final Fantasy VII Remake because of course I am. And it's good that the game's letting you do that. And even Microsoft, they're even going further back. They're going, how many generations back now? 3 technically.
I absolutely love this, Matt. Seriously, it's my favorite thing about
work on your back catalog until Halo comes out. Like that, I guess that's Xbox, Microsoft's attitude at the moment.
The trade-off there, because to your point, Meg, would it have been better for them to launch it, launch Halo Infinite with Xbox, even if the game itself wasn't that good?
I'm glad they delayed it. I swear, I never am upset when things get delayed because I always know it's going to be crispier on the other side, always worth it. But I just think for something like this, that they've known about it for bloody years, they've had this on their roadmap, this always coming, that there was nothing else they could have done to pivot, even with anything else they had up their sleeve. I just feel like it's such a massive lost opportunity for their brand.
Yeah, I think that they were betting on Halo, but then when they released the first that big gameplay trailer for Halo,
it was not great.
I thought it was okay. Yeah. It performed well. Obviously, it showed the open world elements, which obviously was a bit more sparse and stuff, but it almost kind of evoked silent cartographer era Halo vibes, and I think that's a pretty good thing because considering a lot of the Halo, reveals over the last couple of years, like Halo 5 and 4, have been fairly linear, so it was nice to see it go a little bit differently. But on top of that, I guess this really kind of serves as a neat metaphor for not naming games after long spances of time, like Duke Nukem Forever, Halo Infinite, Cyberpunk 2077. Bioshock Infinite. Was that the one that never ever got delayed, or did that get? Okay.
No, that was a different game between when it was first revealed and when it finally came out.
Let's not tempt fate because
went in to fix that game. Then he went on to the Gears franchise.
Yeah, well, let's not tempt fate because the last thing we want at the moment is more game delays. But yeah, just a fact. Just if you want to release a game on time, don't ever say that it's going to be Halo Infinite. Maybe say Halo. Going to be released soon, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it is a little bit disappointing when you're like, what game am I going to get for my brand new console? And in a full generation's time, where like, the new Assassin's Creed is out. I guess I can do that.
Like, there was the last generation. Was the last generation that impressive, though, in terms of launch titles? And I'm just thinking back to the Xbox One launch, which I bought on day one. What games could we play for? We could play Call of Duty Ghosts, which was arguably one of the lesser Ghosts at that time. We could play Rise, Son of Rome.
Don't.
No, I think a lot of those releases at that time were kind of stinkers, like Rise and stuff, and Loco Cycle, as much as I unironically like that game. But there are also other games as well. I mean, even Sony. Sony wasn't, I guess, impenetrable either. I mean,
they had a shocking lineup as well. But
Killzone sucked.
Gran Turismo Prologue, obviously, and then there was like was it Heavenly Sword?
That was PS3. That was PS3. Yeah. PS3, I'm talking about the PS4. Like Killzone Shadowfall sucked.
I mean, it's.
I think there was another game as well. I think there was Knack. Knack as well.
Knack. Snacks. I'm so pumped.
Yeah, I got that downloaded on my PlayStation 5 at the moment. I'm actually really keen for that. But also at the same time, a lot of those killer apps on the Xbox One and even the PlayStation 4, for example, took ages to come out. I think Bloodborne was a year and a half. So a lot of those games that were well revered during that console generation took a little bit more time in the oven. So maybe Halo will follow suit.
I think people are frothing for a really good Halo game. I think there's been enough time between the last release to miss it and crave it. And I think I was really looking for, I know obviously it's a first-person shooter, whatever kind of shooter you want, but I think I really am longing for a great story to hook me back in and give me an incentive to check it out. So I'm really hoping that they deliver something in the next trailer or teaser that they put out there.
Well, Master Chief was put in a cryosleep again, and that, in terms of Halo standards, is the soft reboot. So maybe that'll happen again. Maybe it's a new arc. Who knows?
Right.
We've been talking a lot about Xbox, but anecdotally from people that have been working in retail, the PS5 is selling so many more units over the Xbox Series console. Why? Like, I get that Xbox has had a lackluster launch without Halo, right? But PS5 has Miles Morales, which is on PS4. There's not really a whole lot more there. Is that really just like brand allegiance, I guess, leading that charge?
I actually wanted to rebut you on that and say that there's still no stock of Xbox to really compare the sales for now. I think they sold out within 5 minutes just as quickly as PlayStation did. And I don't think there was as much stock, to be fair. I don't know anyone that scooped one up really, except for a couple of people from this industry. But you're right. I think like people I have spoken to about next-gen consoles and like how they're picked, like majority absolutely is PlayStation. But I'm not really sure people measuring it against. Like if it is like loyalty.
Yeah, I think because PlayStation 4 was definitely the winner of the previous generation. So you could have people just by sheer inertia going to that. But also, like we've said it before here on New Game Plus, that Xbox isn't really emphasizing the new generation as much as Sony has with the PlayStation, because Microsoft only really, like their main end game is to have people subscribing to Game Pass. Right. Whether you do that via this Xbox Series consoles or your PC or your old Xbox One or even your phone with xCloud, then like they are happy to take your whatever it is monies per month. And,
I think it's definitely an apples and oranges situation.
No, they're not allowed on Apple.
Sony, well, they're still negotiating, of course, technically. But I guess historically, Sony have always supported their previous consoles and even the third parties as well, where they've always released. There's that transitional period between you can play this game on PS3, it's out on PS4, on the PlayStation Vita. Remember that when that console existed, and Sony actually liked. And remember when they said they had no son? So they would always be able to support those consoles. This is the first generation where Microsoft have actually emphasized you can play this on any other platform. And this is attributed a lot to Phil Spencer's direction, where Sony is going the all-in response of we're going to slowly transition our user base to the PlayStation 5 as they did with the PS2 to the PS3, PS4, vice versa. Whereas with Microsoft this time are like, you can play all of our games on PC, you can play them on the Xbox One X. Smart Delivery will eventually make the transition to Series X or S once it gets to the point where third parties decide to not release their games on our current gen platforms anymore. So, but also they're also emphasizing the idea of Game Pass as well. So, meaning that you can play it on PC, you can play it on other platforms that aren't technically the Xbox console. So people making the comparisons to whether or not the PlayStation 5 is going to outsell the Xbox, I think that's kind of a no-brainer. But the amount of concurrent players, on the other hand, I think that's an entirely different argument. So yeah, to compare the two, particularly with the whole COVID situation where there's less stock kind of coming in, coming out, depending on each manufacturer and company, it's going to be really hard to kind of try to compare that. But people will anyway, because it's the internet.
Yeah.
So, that is, I guess, a quick first impressions on the new consoles. We've got a lot more coming up. I mean, Jason's got an Xbox One X. We've got, a bunch of people on the team have these consoles, and we're going to have more videos going up, probably on YouTube. If you are watching on Twitch, because we have a few more viewers than usual. Whoops. Feel free to check us out on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, New Game Plus TV. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/New Game Plus TV, and we're live here on Twitch every Thursday night. 8 p.m.-ish. Don't hold us to it, but about then. Stick with us. We've got more video game goodness, including a bunch of our reviews on games that are not quite next gen. Well, some are. Stick around. We've got more with New Game Plus coming up in just a bit.
You're a bastard, Jack.
I am. Back with us here on New Game Plus TV, live on Twitch. You might be joining us on C31, C44, or listening as a podcast. I'm Cringe, here with Don, Kart, and Meg. And Dirt 5 is not... Well, Dirt 5 might be a next-gen title.
Yeah, well, I've got some thoughts on that, actually, because, well... Normally, at the start of a console generation launch, we typically see like the standard games that show off the flashy, shiny new graphics, which normally is a racing game. We haven't seen anything like that from Sony or from Microsoft. So in comes Codemasters to deliver with Dirt 5, which is the latest in its off-road racing series. And upfront, I have to say, like, it does deliver as that visual showcase. Mind you, I have to say that I have been reviewing this on PC and on a not new PC, I'll just say. So I've had to switch all the settings to medium. But even through this, I will have to say that that the graphics, the game has a really impressive art style. Like, it knows that it's a console launch title, so it knows what is flashy and shiny in the immediate. So it's just the art style and in that element is highly exaggerated. Like, just take the settings, for instance. So the game has various locales from around the world, like Brazil, Norway, China, America, but each of them are loaded with basically every visual trope you can imagine, like just stacked one on top of one another. So Brazil, you're basing through favelas and rainforests, or whatever is left of them at the moment, all under the watchful eye of Christ the Redeemer. In Norway, you're basically driving through seaside towns under an aurora borealis at this time of day, at this time of year, localized entirely within your console game.
Was it similar to like how like every Japanese game in the 90s, if it was like an arcade game, like a racer or a fighting game, suddenly all just existed right near Acropolis?
Basically, yeah. No, really? Yeah, like there is a Greece level, and there is a lot of and it is exactly what you would expect.
So Acropolis.
Yeah.
Nice.
But also, yeah, like, but on top of that, like, the dynamic weather effects here are also incredibly cranked up to celebrate the shiny new console. So we've seen dynamic weather before, like in something like, say, Forza Horizon 4, like, really showed it off. But here, like, in the space of a 3-lap race, you can go from rainy to sunny to stormy. It's
like Melbourne.
It's basically as if they set the weather to Melbourne, yeah. But also, yeah, like the car, like even like right down to the color palettes and the car's liveries, they are incredibly gaudy, just like with bright neon 90s colors. Like, there's no subtlety here whatsoever. But you don't want subtlety for a console launch game to show off your shiny new console. Codemasters knew this when they made this game, and it all kind of just works.
The sort of feel, because Dirt has always felt very different from a lot of races because it is a rally racer, right?
Yeah.
And
it is an off-road racer, yes.
Yeah. So when you're talking about a next-gen title, when, like, for example, Microsoft is talking about Forza Motorsport 7, I think it was, and it was like, look at our brand new simulation model, and we can do, like, puddles that form in the middle of a race, like stuff like that. As much as it sounds kind of wanky, it is something of a technological advancement. Beyond graphical fidelity, does Dirt 5 represent any sort of shift in the controlling of the car, the AI, like Drivatar, like
no
dumb stuff like that?
Like it is love that actually.
Like aside from the visual splendor, the game is pretty threadbare in that regard. Like, even just like, let's just go through like the kind of the gameplay loop itself. The races, there aren't anything fancy. They are just generic 3 laps around a circuit sort of affair. Your career progression is basically as straight line and linear as you expect. You don't even have like any sort of highfalutin Gran Turismo-esque showroom to guide you through. Like, weirdly, there is a narrative here.
Oh, okay. Tell me more.
But the game doesn't. It both really wants you to pay attention to it and makes zero efforts to make it really matter to you. As in, let's just look at the voice cast, for instance. They've got Nolan North and Troy Baker, so basically 1 and 2 in terms of video game voice acting
these days. I didn't know that.
Yeah, but they deliver their lines. They basically phone in their performances. There's a talk about a supposed rivalry between the two, but you can tell that their heart isn't really in there. Like, there's a bunch of narrative on offer to try and push up this rivalry between these two drivers, but they're delivered through podcast episodes that play during the menus, which mean that you either have to hang around in the menu for 2-3 minutes as these podcast episodes play out, or you just skip through them like I did. The game,
like they couldn't do it while you were racing, like you were listening to it in the car.
Yeah, that would be perfect, wouldn't it? Because like all of my driving I do listening to podcasts.
That's all I do. Yeah, that's my life.
No, they've got nothing. And indeed, like the game is even kind of like lacking all and sort of like the features that you expect from modern day, from even last gen, let's call it now last gen racing games. Like, so there's no race replay feature. The AI is, to get to what you were saying, Cringe, like AI feels badly tuned. And even like there's this weird thing where there are no driver models rendered in these cars. So it's just these autonomous cars that are driving around these off-road circuits, which makes me think that
it's like Burnout, right?
It's like Dirt. It's like the movie Cars. Dirt 5 exists in the Cars cinematic universe, as far as I'm concerned.
John, it looks bloody beautiful. I'm actually just like frothing over this footage that we're watching here, but I'm shocked to hear that, like, after so many racing games in such a saturated genre, that this doesn't have anything that sticks out that would make you go, I'm going to get out of my house and go to the shops and buy this game. And I suppose, like, do you play with a wheel or anything like that? Like, is there anything
I'm not to be honest, I don't know if there is wheel functionality, but it's such an arcadey game that you wouldn't want to play with a wheel. I normally play Codemasters games, and particularly Dirt games, what's called like in cockpit view. I don't have a racing wheel because I'm not insane. So like, I try to like make it as simmy as possible. But the thing is though, like the Dirt series kind of has always flitted between being a serious business rally simulator and an arcade off-road happy fun time, like going between the spectrum here and there. Now that we have Dirt Rally being its own thing, the Dirt game itself has become full arcade. So there is no rally arse rallying. There's no drive from point A to point B whilst being navigated around the course by a co-pilot. And like the physics themselves, like, feel incredible. It's incredibly easy to pull off the drifts around the wide corners.
Yeah,
so
I can vibe with that.
Yeah.
Are there any achievements in this game, like things like doing the perfect drift or?
No, the achievements are pretty threadbare. So complete chapter 1, complete chapter 2, complete all the things, like participate in a playground race, because there is also like a playground mode where you can basically create Trackmania style levels. It's strange having a piece of user generated content when we are long past the time of user generated content.
Mm-hmm.
It does look very kind of Simcady in terms of like how Forza Horizon is to the mainline.
It's
Forza
not even
series.
sim; it's just full arcade in my view.
Like Forza Horizon 4 feels like more of a complete package in pretty much every single way. Like if you want more of a simmy kind of experience on road, right? Obviously, you're not going to get that here, but you kind of know that going in. But if you want to have I don't want to discredit an arcadey control style, I guess, or simulation, an arcadey feeling game. Like you have to basically deal with that in Dirt. I mean, let's talk to that actually. What sort of assist modes, what sort of finer functionality can you adjust to make
you can control things like whether you have whether you have ABS braking or whether you have or you can even turn on full braking assist if you really want. You can have anti-lock steering as well. Like it's that sort of thing. I tend to turn them mostly off because just because I've been hanging around these video games for too long. But like the options are there and like I said, like, and you can set the AI to various degrees of difficulty as well, even if they are pretty badly tuned, like they are still there. So like the game very much leans more towards the accessible side of things with some considerations paid to the serious business crowd, but Codemasters also knows that the serious business crowd will probably be still playing Dirt Rally 2.0 and F1 2020. They won't be playing Project Cars 3 because no one deserves Project Cars 3.
No, that's fine. I mean, like at least they've got the focus testing of like if you want more of a simulated rally experience, Dirt Rally is your jam, and this rather than something with Project Cars 3 where it tries to just it caters to too many people, therefore catering to none. So at least this seems a bit. I mean, as threadbare as it is, it's still at least a focused product.
Like, don't get me wrong though. Like the core tenets of what you hope for from a dirt game is still there. Like the cars still feel really great to handle. Like they feel like they have a heft and a weight to them. And even if it is ridiculously easy to Scandinavian flick around a corner, although I don't think this game will call it a Scandinavian flick. I think they'll call it like something incredibly basic or something basic and incredibly branded, because my God, this game has tons of branding associated with it. They call it
Pepsi presents Power Slide.
The Pepsi and Power Slide, literally Pepsi is a sponsor in this game. Pepsi Power Slide brought to you by AMD.
No.
But nonetheless, like it's like, even though it is easy to drift around corners, it still feels really great to do so. And even and there is a cockpit view on offer, and it I kind of spent a lot of my time racing in that view because, as simplified as it was, it still felt fun.
So is it a visceral, or say like Drive Club, or
visceral? Like, is that how you would describe Drive Club? Wasn't Drive Club kind of? Well, I mean,
I think I'm fairly certain it was the guys who did Need for Speed Shift went on to do Drive Club, and a lot of the stuff is really just kind of, a lot of it is spectacle. It's really in your face. Like the action in the cockpit is actually quite high octane.
Admittedly, there isn't like the full detail in the cockpit, so you don't have like, say, a bobblehead, what's it called, reacting to the world physically like you did with, say, Dirt 2.
Ray traced windscreens. Yes.
There is no windscreen activation button like there is with Dirt Rally.
That's unfortunate. Maybe next year.
Look, as much as you're saying that there is a lot of the game being phoned in, there is a lot of threadbare like functionality. It I guess is a feature complete game, but is not particularly thick, double C, on the features, right? Like, it is still a fun game in spite of those things.
No, yeah, like as long as you temper your expectations and think of this as the launch title that it is, then you'll have a good enough time. Like, it kind of actually reminds me, if we want to go back many a year, it reminds me of MotorStorm for the PlayStation 3, another driving launch title, another off-road driving launch title featuring an array of car genre, let's just say, to show off the impressive dirt physics and lighting and shadows. They, like, both MotorStorm and Dirt 5 offer that same sort of experience. Like, if you go into Dirt 5 expecting that level of launch console game, you're going to get a satisfactory arcade off-road racing experience, and a visually stunning one at that. I think, like I said, I haven't actually had a chance to play this on the next-gen consoles. Yeah. You just don't go into this game expecting anything deeper, anything like a traditional Dirt game, I reckon.
Look, as long as it's not as bad as Fuel was back on the 360, I think we'll be all good. Dirt is out now on Windows, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series. Don, you've been playing it, like you said, on Windows, on medium settings, but if you're playing this on a next-gen console, you can expect the graphics slider to be ramped all the way up to the max.
And the frame rate to be super smooth.
And your dreams to be powered, indeed. You're hanging out with us here on New Game Plus TV. Stick around. We've got more video game goodness coming up in just a bit. With us here on New Game Plus TV, live on Twitch. You might be joining us on C31, C44, or listening as a podcast. I'm Cringe. I'm here with Don, Kart, and Meg. Kart, you've been playing Pikmin 3 Deluxe on Switch, yes, which is it's essentially just a re-release. It's a fancy re-release of the Wii U version.
Yeah, I mean, let's not split hairs. It is an enhanced Wii U port by Nintendo once again, because as we all know, Nintendo's kind of in the mode of we're not releasing anything until Breath of the Wild 2. Even Hyrule Warriors, the new one, Age of Calamity, is being developed by Omega Force, so it's technically not a Nintendo game, so whatever. So let's start off with so if you haven't played Pikmin 3 before, it's pretty much is very similar to its predecessors in the sense that you find yourself upon a foreign land, a foreign planet, and you collect resources via the assistance of these tiny little cute creatures called Pikmin. So it's a unique kind of cool, cute concept of I guess the circle of life, which you see a lot in Japanese media. The idea of just seeing some really cute creatures eventually eventually dying at your hand. So very similar to like Tamagotchis, where you see them. You obviously got these Pikmin who fight for you, who help you solve puzzles, who fight in your name, might even drown in your name if you accidentally throw them into a pool of water and they're not the blue Pikmin.
Have you done that a few too many times? I'm just saying, I've
done that. Yeah, I've done it way too many times. But essentially, the story follows. Unlike the first game, and also very similar to the second game, the third game concerns 3 characters known as Alf, Brittany, and Captain. Abbreviated A, B, and C. You have to lend a helping hand to them to gather fruit and resources to bring back to their impoverished planet known as PNG 404. And you learn more about the environment that houses the titular Pikmin. So you basically collect disproportionately large versions of Earth-based fruits, vegetables, and other items. And you utilize the Pikmin to be your pack mules, allowing you to solve puzzles, clear obstacles, fight enemies, pick up items, and then bring them back to your ship. So that way you can turn the fruit into juice, so you can bring it back to your nation. And you can also use it as sustenance to keep going throughout the game and progressing through the game. So the interesting part about that is very different to some of the other games. So the other games give you kind of like a very lenient deadline to complete the game in. Like a couple of days to finish certain objectives, and then you move on to the next stage. With Pikmin 3, it's a bit of a different one where the game kind of gives you a bit more time depending on how much you explore throughout the game. So the more fruit you collect throughout the game, the longer you survive in the game. So the game encourages, it's basically you get out what you put in. The more fruit you find, the longer you last in the game, the longer you can go through all of the major parts of the content, fighting all the bosses, and eventually completing the game. So it is very kind of, it's not necessarily fundamentally different, but it kind of spins it on its head a bit in terms of the first 2 games, where obviously the urgency is a little bit different. It's kind of relaxing, but also pretty urgent. Whereas the third game, it's kind of like, well, you can speed run through this as much as you possibly can. You can optimize your runs, and there you go. The core content of the original game remains, but with Pikmin 3 Deluxe, there's a couple of additions. So a lot of the DLC and downloadable content of the Wii U original comes prepackaged with the game, along with a brand new epilogue mode, which is developed by the team that ported through Pikmin 3 Deluxe, which is essentially provides a pretty suitable bookend to the game's base content, and it wraps everything up in a nice little bow. Even though if it's story and lore you're looking for in a Pikmin game, I don't know why, but whatever. If that's you, that's you. I'm not gonna judge. It's there if you're looking for it.
I mean, it's an unusual world, so it's easy to kind of understand why.
Yeah, like it's cutesy, and a lot of the I guess you'd say the intrigue of Pikmin is through its universe, and how similar it is to our universe, and just in terms of just comparison and perspective, it's great. Like, you want to see these Pikmin succeed, you're kind of their de facto father or mother, and yeah, you want to see that happen. It's less to do with the characters. The characters are just kind of vessels. But yeah, the actual world itself is the one reason why you keep going. Now, the whole context, like the game is very much essentially a real-time strategy in true Nintendo fashion. It's kind of an adventure. It's kind of an RTS, but it's done in a really unconventional way where you're constantly going from area to area. You're doing, you're stockpiling resources, and then the next moment you're fighting enemies. And a lot of the Pikmin are fairly diverse in what you use them for. So, for example, you've got the yellow Pikmin that are resistant to electricity, to most enemies that use electricity as part of their attacks. You've got the blue Pikmin, which can swim around and complete objects and pick up items while underwater. You've got the rock Pikmin that actually hurt enemies more when you actually throw the rocks at monsters, and a couple of other ones as well, like fire resistant Pikmin and stuff like that. So like it's the game kind of encourages you to diversify the amount of Pikmin that you have, rather than just stockpiling the one type. And a lot of them are also very integral in completing objectives and puzzles. Like there's certain Pikmin that can be thrown further or thrown higher than other Pikmin as well. So you need to be kind of utilitarian in your approach of like, am I going to use these Pikmin to solve puzzles? I'll take these other Pikmin and use them for combat, and then pretty much go from there and diversify, rather than putting all your eggs in the one basket. And the same thing goes with resource management too. The best part about Pikmin 3 Deluxe in the sense that there's not only just new DLC content that's prepackaged, but instead of relegating the cooperative elements like in the original release of Pikmin 3 on Wii U, the co-op was just kind of in inconsequential like battle modes where it's kind of there's no real kind of bearing these very quick bursts of fun in cooperative and competitive modes.
It doesn't have any relevance to the rest of the game, really.
Exactly. The best part about Pikmin 3 Deluxe is that the whole cooperative mode supports drop-in, drop-out co-op, which is
story mode does.
It's a game changer. Like, it's pretty damn awesome. Like, the fact that they actually even give you that choice, which is, I think a lot of people missed that in the second game. They're just like, wow, this would have been a great opportunity. They've added it in Pikmin 3 Deluxe, so there's even another way to enjoy the base content. And being honest, the original game really didn't go for that long. I would argue there's actually it's much shorter than Pikmin 2, and I'd argue it's probably even shorter than Pikmin 1 if you know exactly what you're doing. So it's good to see that the game kind of encourages playing the base content as well as the prologue and epilogue content in different ways and methods. So it's appreciated.
How did Pikmin 3 work on the Fisher-Paykel dinner plate, also known as the Wii U gamepad? How is that sort of translated over to the Switch and in the different modes as well?
Yeah, well, they've had to rejig that, obviously, in the sense that the gamepad was originally a map, which allowed you to pretty much cover through, aside from the fog of war, the game would slowly, incrementally fill out the map as you explored each area. Unfortunately, that's not the case in this game, where you've actually, you've got your map mapped to a button, and then you can go and look around and peruse through the map. Unfortunately, you can't do it in real time, but it is a game that has that is quite time sensitive. So if anything, it's kind of a blessing. So yeah, there are elements with like the gamepad where obviously they've had to make a few concessions and changes, particularly if you're running in handheld mode. The game, I would say, probably performs at a lesser frame rate than the original game. I think lesser frame rate.
You were saying that it performs worse than the Wii U version. How?
Yeah, so I mean, it runs at around about 720p at 30 frames on, I believe, docked mode, and it might even be a lesser resolution in handheld mode. I didn't really pay too much attention to the handheld mode. I spent most of it on docked. And yeah, it doesn't perform as well as the Wii U. Obviously, I think because there's a couple of just the way the game is with RTS. There's a lot of moving parts at once. So I think that's probably why they had to make a couple of knockbacks, because the original game looked great. Like, it looked awesome. There's a lot of shiny effects and all that sort of stuff, and a lot of the objects in the game have a pretty good polygon count because everything's so large and close up.
It's also one of the few Nintendo games that is really going for a photorealistic style. Like, there are very few other Nintendo games I can think of that are trying to go for as realistic a look as this one.
Yeah, and it juxtaposes between like some of the silly character designs and the exaggerated character models and stuff like that, and it works. It's like kind of like the original Toy Story movies, where the characters are like really exaggerated, but everything else around them is like just completely stooped in like photorealism. And it works. Like, it's the jarring idea of it works. And yeah, it's just interesting to see these kinds of games go for that photorealistic angle in ways that Nintendo normally don't do it. So yeah, it's appreciated. It's a shame that it runs at a lesser resolution, but whatever. It runs, it's fine. It's good enough. That's it.
But you were also wanting to sort of bring up, because Pikmin 3 is one of the last few Wii U games to jump over to Switch that can really justify their existence. Like, we are on the tail end of all of these great games on Wii U have actually made the jump now. Like, the first year was we were just like, we want all of these games on Switch already, please. And for the most part, they're all there. The only one that matters, of course, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker is already on Switch, thank God.
We talk about it every time we record, actually.
Every time.
I probably should dial it back, but I actually won't. But there are so few games now that, do you think that porting over Pikmin 3 is sort of grasping at straws to begin with?
I think that the additional content, and this is a very common trend I'm finding with a lot of the games that I've been reviewing, especially on Nintendo platforms, at least the first party releases and second party and stuff like that, that it's this weird thing when Nintendo's on the cusp of, their upcoming games. I mean, obviously, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity probably doesn't count.
Is one of them.
Yeah, because it is being developed by Omega Force. And I'm thinking Breath of the Wild 2 is their next game that they're banking on so hard. And if any of you can interrupt me and try to name a game that isn't Breath of the Wild or Super Mario Odyssey of like Switch exclusive games that Nintendo have released, I'm open to it. But yeah, it's just proof in the pudding that I think Nintendo was starting to get a little too complacent with these with a lot of these ports that have been coming out. And it's appreciated to see a lot of games like Tokyo Mirage Sessions get a little bit of extra life on a console that not many people bought or kept onto. But at the same time, it's like after Pikmin 3 Deluxe, like what's next? Like Xenoblade Chronicles Cross, which Monolith Soft they don't seem very keen on re-releasing.
Let's get Wii U on Switch. Come on, guys.
Yeah, and that's it. Like you look at it and you go like, okay, what else can Nintendo do to help bolster their release period until Breath of the Wild 2 comes out, which still doesn't have a release date. So it's a bit tough because it's like I think the Switch at the moment has done really well in terms of third-party support, where a lot of developers have just gone straight in. We've even seen games that we never thought would be on Nintendo platforms, like Bethesda's been going all in.
Microsoft has been going in as well. Let's not forget that.
Microsoft's been going in. So a lot of the support that Nintendo have been receiving has been from outside first-party releases. So when are Nintendo going to rejoin that party? If you get
judging by the 60,000 games that come out on the eShop every week, do they need it? Does the Switch need any more supports?
Maybe there's like a Valve argument where it's like Valve don't need to develop another game ever again. They don't have to.
It's a bit different though. Like people are buying a Nintendo console because they want to play Nintendo games. Like you want to have the broader support, sure, but it's not like Valve where they're not a game dev. They are a platform dev at this point.
I mean, they were, and there are cases where it's like you didn't need to release Half-Life Alyx, but you did because you want people to know that you're still a developer. Yeah. But I know with Nintendo, it's just like, well, like we know you guys can count up to 3 and stuff. So
yeah, they've got the money. They've got the teams. I imagine COVID might have knocked them around a little bit. At this point, first-party stuff, Breath of the Wild 2 is coming at a certain point, right? Metroid Prime 4 is still somewhere on the cards.
I think Animal Crossing New Horizons has set them up for the next 5 years. They don't need to release it. Yeah. So my opinion here is more depth on New Horizons to make that game even better than it already is. There's so many things they could change for quality of life to keep players like myself that have dropped off after playing for like 1,000 hours and I have just gone cold turkey like enough. I think that's what they should do. I'm just going to put that out there.
But also, like, Nintendo had, like, they came off, the Switch came off ridiculously front-heavy first year with Breath of the Wild 1 releasing on the first day. And then by the end of that year, we had got Super Mario Odyssey. Yeah. So, like, the two big marquee franchises that we saw from Nintendo all out within the first year. And they've continued to pick away with Animal Crossing and the various ports from Wii U. So now compared to that powerhouse from the first year, this current year, like any year will look a little bit down by comparison. Having said that though, they are, as you said, Cardi, they are kind of scraping the barrel by re-releasing Pikmin 3 of all games. Like, I'm looking at the games, the first-party games that were, a list of the first-party games that were released on Wii U. And as soon as we start talking about Switch ports of Nintendo Land and Wii Fit U, then we have to start worrying.
I mean, that boxing exercise game is coming out in like a month's time, so maybe that will take shape.
Adventure does count as Wii Fit U, doesn't it?
It's the successher.
Definitely.
It really is. But I think with the, like, if we make comparisons to say GameCube and Wii, for example, where those consoles had way more killer apps in regards to Switch exclusive killer apps. So it's just a bit hard to see, like, you know, Nintendo this generation just seemed like, yeah, we'll just release all the stuff that we had on the Wii U. Cool, no worries, awesome. I think that a lot of, if we were to make the comparison to 3DS, for example, a lot of their AA games that we do miss out on, or at least like their A games, like, like WarioWares and Rhythm Heavens, a lot of that niche is being soaked up by a lot of the third-party releases. So I think they understand that the demand is already being met with all these like spiritual successors and all that sort of stuff. And I think
I think that signals more that there continues to be an appetite for the real deal. Like,
The real deal.
moment WarioWare releases, I'm like gone. I'm getting that goddamn game. I was heartbroken.
I am too. But
yes, and not on Switch.
Like the counter arguments.
I'm just gonna put that out there.
The counter argument there is that, like, you know, you'll see games like Redout and Fast Racing Remix, and then you look at Nintendo and go, why don't you just ring up Nagoshi-san from Sega and tell him to make another F-Zero game instead of just sitting there going, oh, I don't think anyone wants an F-Zero game. And sorry, you're rubbing salt in the wound. You've hit a sore point. I'm just going to shut up now because I'm just going to keep going on about it.
For what it's worth, I still really love Fast RMX is, in my eyes, a good F-Zero like spiritual successor because it is boiled down to the arcade experience, and I love that. Yeah. But I also kind of get why some people might be like, I really want F-Zero, whatever. I actually don't care that much. Any other? You're a bastard, Jack. I'm like, that is correct. I will not apologize for anything.
Before we said it earlier in the episode,
I will say that Nintendo has been like before we talk about Nintendo going back to the well, they have been weirdly experimental this generation. Like within the last 3 years, we've had Labo, we've had Ring Fit Adventure, we've had Mario Kart Home Circuits, which are all incredibly weird games, and I say that as a compliment as well. Like it is that off the wall experimental Nintendo that we saw, especially back in the Wii, with, well, for one, the concept of the Wii, but also games that somehow managed to become major successes, like Wii Fit, for instance, and then going back to the DS with that brain training.
I think in a strange way, it's also kind of almost vintage on brand in the sense that Nintendo is never forgetting its roots as a playing cards and toy company predominantly. And I think this is kind of their way of I guess paying homage to those roots. So just doing that really weird experimental stuff of, like, obviously they're aiming towards kids, but then you've also got stuff like Ring Fit, which is basically, you know, a catch-all. Like it both entices kids to exercise more. It entices fat slobs like me to exercise more. So
does it though? Do you actually?
It should. Like,
hey,
it should.
Hey! Whoa, Meg! What's with the stats, huh?
I'm just saying, like, you say you exercise more, but do you really? Are you lying to us and yourself?
Absolutely, I'm lying.
I am level 125 in Ring Fit Adventure. Thank you very much.
That's the thing. Like,
can't you see that I'm a level 125 right here? I'm almost expecting like the comical of my arm there.
You're a level 100 Ring Fit Grandmaster, as Electrix would say on our chat.
It's so impressive. It's amazing.
I kind of want to play because the little bits and pieces that I've played. I mean, Meg, you and I spoke about it in studio, and I was like, all about Ring Fit. Let's go. All about it. I have not touched it since. Like, I need to, and especially after COVID and after, like, oh, you know, lockdown's lifted, I'm going to go out and drink. Those like lockdown kilos are not going away for at least another month.
I have Ring Fit sitting in my home in my Animal Crossing town. That's as much as I've exercised in my game. It's just
like, Jack strikes me as one of those guys who gets a gym membership in January and doesn't use it for the 11 months of the year.
I actually avoid doing that. Like when people say, "Hey, I've got like 6 months left on my gym membership. Can anyone else want it?" And I'm like, "That, bro. Like gym memberships are so pricey.
Like I can't even accept a free membership because I'm not going to use it. I know I'm not going to use it.
Pay for the remainder of it. They're not.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, they're no friends of yours then. Jesus.
So, I'm not the target audience. I think they're in Tasmania anyway. God bless them.
Gyms in Tasmania?
Loosely.
I'm sorry. No disrespect for people in Tasmania. You've got to.
I'm saying farewell to our Tasmanian viewers. It's nice.
All three of them.
They're going to boycott me, and I'm fine with that. Like I deserve it.
We're not letting you into the Museum of Art anymore.
No.
Before we dive the rails any further, you're with us here on New Game Plus. Stick around. We got more video games coming up in a bit.
Pikmin's cool.
You were here with us on New Game Plus TV live on Twitch. You might be with us on C31, C44, or listening as a podcast. I'm Cringe here with Don, Kart, and Meg. And if you're with us here on Twitch, you know what? Maybe you should give us a follow. Give us a subscribe. We're here every Thursday night, 8 p.m. for your pleasure and enjoyment.
And most every other week with plenty of streams ranging from Final Fantasy to Monster Hunter.
Yep.
Matt was streaming Yakuza last night. It was a cracker. get around it. Yeah, always something juicy every night.
Yeah, and if you subscribe, you can post my ugly mug all over Twitch if you want. So that's up to you.
You can clip Matt to hell. We're talking about that. We're talking about not New Game Plus's OnlyFans. We're talking about Dark Picture Anthology. This is a narrative-heavy series, is my understanding, Meg.
I guess you've kind of nailed it. That's a wrap. Let's just
we're done. That's
review. No, that's it. I am really pumped to be here to review this title tonight. It is basically the second installment in a series of standalone interactive survival horror games by, I guess it's Supermassive is the developer. We're published by Bandai Namco, and it's called the Dark Pictures Anthology. This particular title in the series is called A Little Hope, and to be honest, I've had to really try to remember the title of this game a lot. It doesn't really roll off the tongue very easily. It's not really easily.
It doesn't have the mouthfeel of Man of Medan, doesn't it?
I love that you did like the cigar puff, like a Man of Medan.
The mouthfeel.
Yeah, like, have that ring to it. I'm not gonna lie to you. But anyway. I'm digressing. It's on PC, Xbox, and PS4. And actually, doing a little bit of a deep dive, it's supposed to be like on a big picture level, like a series of 8 standalone horror games in this Dark Pictures anthology. And we're up to the second. The next one's due next year, and maybe that'll be on next gen. Who knows? But anyway, essentially, they're all sort of set in the same universe. They're linked through this guy called the curator, who's like a narrator that helps manage the pacing of the game. And I guess he helps manage the story. So he kind of reflects on the chapters as you progress and makes fun of your choices because you suck or you've killed somebody, or maybe be more strategic next time if you can anticipate something coming up. So kind of like, you can imagine him sitting in this like leather lounge with like swirling a glass of whiskey kind of energy and like a dapper vest. So yeah, he kind of sets the tone, and I think I really like that about it. He's in all of them so far. Well, both of these two. You might be familiar with Supermassive actually from their previous games, Man of Medan. And I guess it is a survival interactive horror. And I don't know if you guys know this about me, guys, but I actually froth over the horror genre. In fact, I actually would challenge anybody to give me a recommendation of a scary movie.
You're like, I'm going to 5-star my like New Horizons Island, and then I'm going to get the crap out of me.
Halloween is a mood. Anyway, it was great, that update. But anyway, yeah, I actually really, really look for these games for gripping, sweaty palm action. Like, I really want that, the immersion of being enthralled in like a scary story, basically. Yeah. And I feel like Man of Medan did deliver something really juicy like that. Like the story was really deep and twisty, and I guess something totally different, like more fantasy. And this, I guess, was on the same level. It wasn't related in any way. But essentially, I'm going to give a little bit of a sizzle of the story that doesn't give away any spoilers. So hear me out. All right. So trapped by a mysterious fog in the abandoned town of Little Hope, 4 college students and their professor search desperately for a means of escape, whilst visions of the town's gruesome and sinister past haunt them from the shadows. Get hyped. Shadow, ghosts, monsters. Yes. Okay. I'm hooked. Like, this is the first sentence. I'm in. All right. In order to stay alive, you take turns playing as the 5 different characters to work together and uncover the mysteries behind these dark apparitions before the evil forces drag each of their souls to hell. And it doesn't disappoint. Like, part of me plays these games to, I guess, see if I can keep everybody alive, or in a second playthrough, kill everybody and just like make whatever decisions I feel like it. Once I've like really cared about the story, and to make a second playthrough to see like what decisions and like choices in the narrative that you can make that kill everybody, and that seeing all the amazing, gruesome, gory deaths that you can, I guess, achieve, which is the best part. Anyway, so I guess pulling it back a bit, I'm not sure if you guys have seen me review any other games of this type of genre on New Game Plus, but things like right, like last time I reviewed Don't Nods, Tell Me Why, and all the Telltale series. And I guess a common thread around this genre is my biggest gripe of like the narrative choices having little to no meaningful impact if you make a decision of like the tell your own adventure style. And like, it doesn't really matter what you choose, the same thing happens. It's super linear still. I guess in this particular story, I feel like that it didn't live up to the hype. Like, nothing really felt significant in terms of the story itself. But I still really, really frothed over the jump scares. There was plenty of them. Like
it's a good story, but it's not like you don't feel in control of the story is the concern.
Correct. Yes. It was extremely linear. And I guess this particular, like the Dark Pictures Anthology really thrive off you playing, it's a third person experience and you explore the location to discover clues. And it's so linear that you can't like go off the path. So it's like the clues are like set there for you and they glimmer in the dark and you're like, oh, guess I'll go there then. So lots of that. And I suppose as much as they set up these really cool characters all seemed intertwined, they didn't really have much of a significant backstory and didn't make me want to care about them very much, or if they lived or died kind of thing. And what I felt, I don't know, like even just like watching those movies like Final Destination, the most annoying characters die last or first. I don't really know what the pattern is, but with this, like they had their stereotype personalities in this, and they were initially just whingy, annoying, like, oh my God, we can't go into the dark. We'll get like attacked by something for sure. And I'm like, I can't wait for this. But then when you get, like, you can either basically play by yourself, like you can just choose to take the story on your own from start to finish, or you can play 2-player online where you share the story, or the best mode of all and this kind of genre is best shared with friends. It's like the movie night mode where you can play up to 5-player in local co-op. And so James and I, we shared this, and you get to like spread the characters out between you. So it's a 50-50 split. And so I gave him all the annoying characters and I gave me all the good ones, which was like a lucky win of the draw. And basically I felt like they were annoying as hell in the characters were annoying in the main cutscenes, and then when you got to control their conversation choices, which was like the moral compass and the main mode gameplay, which drives the motive for you to pick with the ethical choices, like what's right and wrong. Some of the responses would be sensitive and like really like, oh, I'm really sorry for being mean, or like, no, like stuff it, like do whatever you want to do. Like, so there's really different options that don't really match the characters they've tried to build in the cutscenes. So it's really choppy.
A bit at odds, yeah.
Yeah. So that did drive me crazy when I really wanted to love the characters so much. I was like fully ready to just commit and really care about every single character and keeping them alive. But then I stopped caring, and that's when it got good. So that's like my hot tip, seriously, with these games.
That's just good life advice, isn't it? Just don't care. Stop caring.
Stop caring. Yes. That's 2020, hashtag 2020, I suppose. But yeah. And I guess one thing I really wanted to let you guys know about, actually, that I liked the most was doing a bit of research on the animation for this game. I'm sure we've talked about it in the past with motion capture coming into vogue and being one of the most popular and best-in-class choices for next-gen, like AAA releases.
Storytelling, basically.
Yes. There was a time in next-gen, like Xbox One and PS4, where mocap had this uncanny valley where everything looked like too realistic that it was fake, and it just didn't.
Is like a really good example where the face feels like that is its own separate thing, and the rest of the world is kind of at odds with that, and you're like, that's not.
Like the skin was too porous, or the eyes didn't move quite right, but everything else was great.
It also didn't help that, like for the people that were lying, especially early on, they had really mugging sort of obvious like.
Yeah.
Extra big doubt. Yeah, right.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've reached a time, I'm going to say it, that they've absolutely nailed it. This game had some of the most stunning mocap I think I've seen in a really long time, because every shot in this game was cinematically shot. It was like watching a film. I think this was the saving grace for me that really loved seeing this to the end, was just the careful screenshots and planning of the pacing of the way they wanted the story to unfold. And I guess if anyone's played any of the Supermassive games before, back especially Until Dawn, which I can't believe was 2015, Hayden Panettiere was the famous actress they chose as like the leading face of that franchise. And she was on all the marketing material and was like the main character that you controlled, and gorgeous. So in Man of Medan, we had Sean Ashmore, who's part of X-Men and a million other movies and TV shows. And in this one, actually, I don't know if you guys have seen Midsummer, which is also a thriller, like psychological thriller movie that's won billions of awards, Oscars and things like that. Will Poulter, he was one of the boys that went on the trip together to this like cult location, and yeah, he's in this one as like the leading actor. They actually did the mocap separate to the voice acting, and I didn't think I could tell a difference, but it was really interesting to see, and I'd recommend checking out their dev diaries on the Supermassive website if you're interested in that stuff. So yeah, get around that, 100% worth checking out.
So I think around the story, like we're not going to get into a whole lot of the spoilers, but there was frustration there you mentioned about the characters being annoying, but then that was mostly remedied when you were like, all of you are going to die. Like that, does that genuinely sort of fix a lot of the frustrations you had with the game? Because you're going in for a horror experience, and from what you described, it is a success. Like it is successfully pulling off the horror experience. Do the annoying characters tarnish that experience, basically?
I'd say it's a huge factor. It was in Telltale, it was in Don't Nod as well. But I think what really saved it for me was the jump scares. I think they did a lot of work with the setting up of like really cool moments where you just go, holy shit, like, oh my God, that was great. Like lots of that this time. And I think the fact that there was a lot of other nice mechanics in the game that added to the gameplay that distracted you from that. Like there was, you know, a little bit of annoying voice acting that was like, oh, we better not go in there. And like, you know.
You're like, shut up, man. Like.
Yeah. But the ethical and moral dilemmas are always lots of fun. And they did change up the way that you make the decisions in this game, which was refreshing. And oh my gosh, I don't know if you guys remember Until Dawn, but there were these scenes where you had to hold the DualShock controller so fucking still. And that was literally like, if you sucked at that, the character would die in some instances, even though you're emotionally attached and you'd like developed that story and that. So yeah, if you accidentally slipped, they'd die. But they've completely got rid of that in this one. And this time it's like these little heartbeat quick time events. So you have to kind of like rhythm heaven, like you have to really get the momentum in the pressing just right. And that's a little bit easier and less stressful, which gets rid of the sweaty palm action. Like you can just focus back on the story. So
I imagine like you still have to have a controller. You can't afford to put the controller down, like lest a quick time event pop up and suddenly kill your favorite character.
Surprises, which I really find is a nice touch for accessibility. I think that other games where you don't see it coming, it's like an unfair thing for people that might not play that game for that reason. So yeah, there's plenty of warning and momentum leading up to those scenes. So,
like you've mentioned Until Dawn, like some of the super massive.
It's super massive, yeah.
So I keep on almost saying super giant, which is an entirely different game developer.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've been at the catalog, so from Until Dawn to Man of Medan to Little Hope.
Yeah, right.
Speaking of, as you're saying, it's a kind of nothing title. Like, have you noticed an improvement in those games, like as they've gone along, or are they still making similar mistakes that they were making even going back to the Until Dawn days?
I was hoping that you guys would ask me this actually, because I'm not sure if I've become desensitized by the genre and I'm just expecting more, but I don't believe this Little Hope is like setting a new bar. I think it's meeting the same caliber as what Man of Medan delivered. So if you've really, really enjoyed that, you have to check this out. And I'm going to say, if you love this genre, you have to check Little Hope out. Like this is a must play in that genre of interactive survival horror, 110%, but it's not groundbreaking. It's not like mind blowing, but I really appreciated what it delivered. And I think that there's not much out there at this moment that scratches that itch for me, like Little Hope did do. I definitely think it was good. Yeah.
So what did you play Little Hope on?
PS4.
Is it out on everything?
Yep.
It is, yeah. Windows, PS4, and Xbox One.
That's correct.
There you go. It is out on everything. Well, not next gen. We don't have next gen. But like you said, maybe the next one will be when it releases next year. You said is the next.
Yes, the third installment is like extremely rumored to be 2021, and they tease it in the end of the credits of the game. Which I'm sorry, it's not really a spoiler. It's kind of on the internet. Sorry, and like it's called A House of Ashes. So get around that. And also, if you're into this genre, I did say last time I reviewed the Don't Nod, Tell Me Why, that they're actually releasing another game called Twin Mirror, which is their first self-published game, coming December 1st this year. And I'm going to be reviewing it right here on New Game Plus as well. So hang in there for that when it does come out.
Cool. So if you do want to hang out for that, and I don't know why there would be any reason for you not to, make sure you check us out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, /New Game Plus or at New Game Plus TV on all of those. The YouTube channel is youtube.com/New Game Plus TV. We will put up full interviews like with Meg. You spoke with the Rising Star Award recipient.
100%. It was great. Like, so GCAP was a month ago, and we were robbed of our con season here in Melbourne or in Australia this year. So missing out on like PAX Australia, all the Comic Cons and things like that. But Jack did a lot of work behind the scenes, as did these guys here too, for the IGEA Game Developer Conference.
There was GCAP, which is the Game Connect Asia Pacific, and then it was the Australian Game Developer Awards.
Yeah.
We worked on it. So you spoke with the recipient of the Rising Star Award, who's someone who's not like, fresh in the door, but on the way up.
Yeah, Jared Farquhar Nickel. He won his Rising Star Award for being such an amazing brand ambassador in the local video game scene, and all the work he's been contributing to helping others get to where they want to be in the industry as well, which is really selfless and really exciting. And we do a bit of a deep dive about his career, where he's going to, and what he's done to win the award.
Cool. So that one's coming up. You should be able to check out the full interview on YouTube, but if you want to see it first, you can check us out on Twitch, twitch.tv/New Game Plus TV, Thursday, 8 p.m. Melbourne time. And if you want to check us out on C31 or C44 on your telly, you can look up the guides. Monday in Melbourne, Friday in Adelaide, Meg. We're not on Wednesday night.
Oh my God, I got it wrong. Sorry, Mom.
Wednesday nights. Oh, no, that's not. But that is a wrap on the show for this week. Don, Kart, Meg, thank you for hanging out with us.
Thanks, guys. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, viewers. Thank you, Jack.
Love you lots. Love all of you. Thank you very much.
Lots of love here on New Game Plus.
All the love.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.